Welcome to the Creative Plan Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews of items, and convention panels, and other exciting things that we run into from time to time. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion to Ragnarok story, and To the Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Well, my name is Brian Haas. I am a film programmer for Film Bar in Phoenix. I've been a film critic for a very long time at this point, since the last century. Long time. We've been doing live events now for 5 or 6 years. This is my first con in 2 years, so that's really, I got my first panel out of the way yesterday, so that was very exciting because it'd been a very long time and I missed this. So and would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I've done my fair share of film criticism. I'm Wolf Forrest. I'm a local writer and artist, and I was intrigued by the topic. I can cite a number of examples that may or may not be relevant to the discussion at hand, but I'm glad you're a film person too. Maybe we'll just get into a fight.
Yeah.
People can watch and eat their popcorn and go, kill.
That's what everybody loved about Siskel and Ebert. It wasn't when they agreed, it's when they didn't agree.
Money's worth. We don't care how.
Yeah, exactly.
Sacrificial lambs or whatever.
Yeah. But today we're going to talk about moral panic and how it's used as a tool in advertising. And it's kind of funny. I like this, was asked to be a part of this, and I just say I'll talk about whatever. I don't care. I just sort of widely put it out there. And when I got assigned this, I'm like, interesting. I was not expecting this conversation to come out of this.
Did you panic?
No, because I can think of lots of relevant things in regards to this particular topic. But the more that I thought about it, I don't think that moral panic is a very good promotional tool, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how much benefit the people that are directly involved with whatever's being run through the ringer actually get from that. It sort of puts your name out there, but I don't know that anybody that wasn't already going to see what you were doing is really gonna have that much of a please.
Can you give me just an example of what something with moral advertising works?
Totally, yeah. So I got the best example ever, right? In 1981, 82, there was this movie called Silent Night, Deadly Night, where a killer Santa Claus ends up stalking a family, and it makes sense in the context of it. And people had done killer Santa Clauses 4 or 5. It wasn't a new idea, right? This had been done 3, 4, 5 times. But what was different about this one is it had a very specific, a great poster of Santa, with the bag in one hand and an axe in the other one going down the chimney, and it's just, so perfect. And some, church group saw this and was completely beside themselves offended, because you can't say that about Santa Claus, even though this has already been said about Santa Claus. There was a very famous Tales from the Crypt episode that they remade 3 times, and they're all good. There's a really good, Barbara, I'm forgetting her name. Barbara Collins, I think, is in the original one and plays sort of the bitchy version of but the whole thing was that this sort of really took off wildfire, and all of the news networks picked it up, as back when it was ABC, CBS, NBC. So if they all picked it up, everybody in the whole of the United States knew about this. And like Trimark, who was the distributor of Silent Night, Deadly Night, pulled all the advertising immediately. As soon as like there was one peep out of the church groups, pulled all the advertising immediately. Within 2 weeks, pulled the film, and they like barely made their money back is what they ended up doing. And there was like a couple of tenuously tied-in sequels that came after that, and like several more that were they didn't even bother to. It's just like Silent Night, Deadly Night is a property now, so we can sell that name even if it doesn't attach to like and it's even been remade at this point. The remake didn't even really do that good, and we love remakes. Like everybody loves remakes now, and I don't think it really did anything, in the long term. It made all these movies, but like I think those were just people that sort of made, a few pennies on it, because the property rights to it bounced from like one person to the next. That's why so many different people, they would just buy the rights to it, slap it on the front of a Christmas movie, and now it's, going to rent. It's, how you compete for eyes back when the video store days,
So would the moral advertising be the initial image that they put out there, or would it be because they heard the church groups were upset and then they recalled everything?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it was probably a little bit of both, because like it was quick, like it happened like that, back when nothing happened. And nothing happened quick back then. It'd take like months for anything to happen, It's not like stuff the way that it moves today, where it's like, 10 minutes later, you know exactly what the circumstances of, some event that happened halfway across the world,
Yeah, social media for you.
Yeah, it just, it brings everything so close.
It's funny because when I heard before it was even made, when I heard about Silent Night, Deadly Night, my mind went to, it's about a guy with chronic flatulence. I want to see that movie too. Well, and with regards to film, I'm sure we're talking about all media, and
sure,
people come across.
Absolutely.
We're coming from a film background, so it's not really science fiction. But I always go to films like The Last Temptation of Christ by Martin Scorsese.
Yes.
As soon as the Catholic Legion of Decency boycotts it, people want to see it.
Yeah.
You want to involve yourself in something that's forbidden, like what's going on that I don't know about. Nobody wants to be left out of something. Everybody wants to feel like they're in the loop, they're in the know. So I think about filmmakers like Pier Paolo Pasolini. He did films like The Temptation of St. Anthony. I'm trying to remember the one that it's his most notorious, and it's just one Adam.
Oh, the 120 Days of Sodom.
That's Sodom, thank you.
Yeah, Salo,
120 Days of Sodom, which even if you're an atheist, it will set you back.
Yeah.
So put that on your to watch list if you want.
It's a bumpy
your
ride.
Mind kind of expanded. The same way with Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yes.
Who did El Topo, which has a lot of religious iconography in there. I love his stuff. He's just mad. He's just a madman. He had a character in that film. It was a legless midget strapped to an armless big man.
Yes.
And he said it made one John Wayne. And he's a cowboy, he's a good cowboy. There's a film called, you've probably seen it, I don't know how many, called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
And, Jesus, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood. I mean, how can you not think of a vampire, It's like, this is thinly veiled
The power
stuff.
of Christ impales you. That's literally the tagline, the power of Christ impales you.
In the 1970s, National Lampoon magazine did their all science fiction issue, which had a wonderful story by Theodore Sturgeon called Cruzy's Pot, which is it's a mind fuck. Find a PDF of it somewhere if you can. But the cover had some alien crucified, and it was like a 6-armed cross, because he had 4 arms, And it was like, this is great.
So, Silent Night, Deadly Night, if they had embraced that, if they'd just been like, oh, you don't like us, who cares?
Yeah.
They could have been big, because people have been like, well, what is this church group bitching about?
I think they would have ultimately done a lot better. But, in 81 or whenever that happened, it was like, we are terrified, and especially then when,
Absolutely.
the church is a very powerful tool still, it's sort of lost, some of its power over the years, it's sort of eroded away a little bit. But then it was just like, we cannot go against, no, we got to do what they say. And it's funny because somebody else ended up picking it up and released it in like the summertime or something, and, like some other distributor, right? Because Trimark's like, I'm not touching this again, you know. And somebody else came and said, "Well, do it. We don't care." You know, it's got a little bit of notoriety to it, and they probably made a couple of dollars off of it. The most interesting use of moral panic that I've seen recently is flipping it up on its head, right? So right now, the best example of this is the Passion of the Christ, right? Okay, so most people would say, but that made like $500 million. Yes, but they did it with the exact opposite philosophy of everybody doesn't want you to see this. You know, like we are definitely being, you know, like people are against us, you know, and like they don't want this type of programming, and you know, like yeah, and so. They were marketing it in like churches, you know, like they're literally doing like promos in churches for it, you know, and it's like, wow, that's kind of, you know, but it just goes to show you how much power they still have when they want to do that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Would something similar be like when Joaquin Phoenix's The Joker came out, and then there was like that article from like military, like the military basically encouraging their soldiers not to see it?
Maybe
because they were.
I guess
about,
sort
like,
of.
It like this is a. I did not. I read it in the
Oh,
Stars
no,
and Stripes
yeah.
article. Like they were very concerned about their military personnel, especially those with complex PTSD, going to see it.
Yeah.
Because they were worried it would trigger them and make them want to like kill the superior officers or something. I don't know.
As opposed to any other film,
right?
I'm not sure why they singled that film out. That's
well,
very...
and I also heard that the military actually has a pretty firm presence in Hollywood, and a lot of times they'll like
They do.
Yeah, like
because that's why you see a lot of like military stuff in films.
But they
get say over it.
Right,
Yeah.
they won't let anything show
Right.
barely show the bad side of
like all the stuff that you see in the Top Gun trailers that you've been seeing for 2 years now because it's been sitting on a shelf because of the pandemic or whatever. All that stuff is absolutely real military. Like they're really flying those planes, you know. Like it was something that Tom Cruise insisted on, and you know Tom Cruise can do what he wants because you know he has a production company and makes billions of dollars and is still a huge star everywhere else in the world, you know, and still has like his fans here in America. And but yeah, like it is very much, and there's a lot of groups, you know, like honestly I would say like the other way that I'm seeing this is a lot is through the marketing of just like everything that you're watching, and it's subtle marketing now. It's not like, you know, hitting you over the face. It's like the character that you're watching is drinking, you know, like James Bond's drinking a Heineken, you know, like it's not like smashing you over the head with it, you know, but like here he is holding a Heineken, you know, in the last couple of movies or whatever. You know, Bond's been doing that for years, but like everybody else has sort of been getting on board with this idea. And it's become more and more subtle. And so, like, I would hope that there would be more of a backlash to that, but it doesn't seem, nobody seems to care. So
in novels, like not my novels, nobody cares, but big name novels, they product place.
Oh yeah.
If that character's driving
me.
a Lexus, someone paid that author to use a Lexus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey,
Well, there was a film in 1964 which starred a very young Ellen Burstyn. And she went by Helen McRae at the time. It was called For Those Who Think Young. And it was kind of like your teen comedy or surf movie or whatever, but everything in there was Pepsi products because that was their slogan.
I feel like as consumers, it's less of wanting to call them out. We see it. We're just so desensitized. We're like, oh, there it is again.
Right.
Like there's no...
The expectation is already set,
Oh,
so we're not surprised.
So remember when you had to call everything Brand X or blank
yeah.
boxes because you couldn't promote
Yeah,
somebody?
it used to be like you would see just like all the generic stuff, you know, in the movies because they were terrified that like Pepsi was going to sue them because you know like Pepsi's in their movie. Now they're like, Pepsi, do you want to be in our movie? They're like, yes, we
Yeah,
want
it's
to
like
be in your
I
movie.
thought there's no such thing as a
We'll give you
bad
money
form of
to do that.
advertising. So
Yeah.
I love the idea of like flipping advertisers on their heads. So like at one point during one of the stories I was writing, I meant like I wanted something the equivalent of Amazon Prime, so I called it Congo Zenith. I was like, it's a giant. It's the second giant rainforest, and then like Zenith, woo,
Right.
like it's even bigger.
Yeah.
But I love stuff that does that.
Yeah.
and mine would be Yangtze Irrational, but you know.
Or how in Mr. Robot they called he wouldn't call it by its name, so they called it Evil Corp, E Corp, the bank or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's still ways to get around it if you want to do that, but like, it just seems like so prevalent these days that it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's just the politics and the money, the way that money changes hand in Hollywood these days. But
well, the Catholic Church would do the flip side of that, as opposed to recommending that you boycott certain items because it did fit into their agenda. They went and did a bunch of stuff called Christian scare films.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's just like, VeggieTales on acid with Freddy Krueger. And it's like, are you kidding? There was one, I'm trying to remember the name, there was one called 13 Stripes, but there was another one even more notorious, and it starred Jerry Falwell. It's basically teaching you how to behave by showing you what happens to people when they don't do good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching this one Christian paid abstinence video, and basically it was a guy and a girl, and they were making out, and the girl's like, "Come on, Tommy, I really want to," and he's all like, "Okay," and handcuffs her in the closet, then sets her on fire because he's all like, "My virginity means everything to me, Kathy." I was like, "The fuck are you at?"
I'd rather set you on fire.
Right? That's terrifying.
I got to make a list of this stuff.
Yeah, really. Some good imagery for a story or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Also, I love that it was the woman that was the one pressuring him. So, that's always.
But I think it's sort of translating into a different, with social media being so immediate that it's, turning into different things now, where it's not really moral panic anymore. It's, it seems like there's two sides to, maybe cancel culture or just sort of putting certain ideals out there, and maybe that's what it's sort of translating into.
I think we're on a constant state of panic.
That's part of the problem. Yeah, I don't.
Well, at least we've been conditioned by the events of the past year and a half to live that way in the future.
Right?
We're sort of inured to, after COVID, well, what's worse than that? Well, don't tempt fate. Are we going to be someplace in 5 years and go, gee, I wish it were only COVID. Remember 2020? I love those days.
Yeah.
Well, what about, say, filmmakers that try to appeal to an individual's sense of comfort or moral center or whatever when they test your boundaries, like in the original Frankenstein, when they had a nurse in the audience because they expected people to pass out or panic, and William Castle, who was the master of gimmicks, in his first gimmicky film called Macabre, they issued life insurance policy to die of fright while watching this film. And then Hitchcock did it, of course, with Psycho, where no one will be admitted into obviously, he didn't want people to, because he couldn't stop people from giving away the ending once they left the theater, but the idea was that, if you don't get there at the beginning, you're not going to be allowed to see this film. So I said, okay, well, I don't want to miss anything. This is going to be great.
Bandwagoning, and you want to be part of a group.
And you wonder, how is a film going to survive when the heroine's killed off 40 minutes into the film?
Yeah.
That's the
turns
power
out that
of
it's
film.
not really about her.
You turn all these tropes on their head and go, well, you can't do that anymore. Like we had a panel before, whatever you do in your novel, you can't kill a dog. Maybe that's why I can't sell anything. It's in everything I write, I kill a dog,
That could be.
I don't dislike dogs, I just think it would be in the plot line.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what that did for John Wick.
There's 4 movies. It did great.
Well, what the whole idea of a movie is to hit emotion. What more hits emotion than having a dog killed? It affects us.
I say, why is it okay to kill cats or parakeets?
Exactly.
Pet frogs or whatever.
It was True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's the spy, and he goes over the fence, and the dogs come, and he grabs their heads.
Oh yeah,
and bangs them together. People were outraged.
Oh yeah.
Worse than Total Recall when he hit the woman.
Yeah.
Wow. She was fighting him. That was valid.
Don't go after the dog. People will come for you.
No, they were like, what?
Also,
very...
don't forget the dog. I wrote a series, and like I wasn't
I
really
do love
invested
that.
in the damn dog, so it was like I don't know where he is, and then all the fans were like, "Where's the dog?" And I'm like, "It's not important."
I read a book about a vet who had a dog at home, and then he goes off with the love interest, and I'm like, where's your fucking dog?
That's fair. That one's fair. Me, I should have just erased the dog from the first book.
Just put a little disclaimer. By the way, there was no dog.
The dog was in her mind only.
And so, like, it's even sort of kind of weird because, like, in other countries, the church can have, like, a lot of say over, like, what even gets released. Like, in Italy, you know, like, you better get the blessing of, you know, the Vatican City or you're going to have some problems, you know. And so, I mean, there are still ways that it sort of hangs on. But, like, I don't think that it's as useful as it once was. And even then, I don't know how terribly useful it was. It just sort of gets eyes on your project, but I don't know that it gets, like, the kind of eyes on your project that you want. It gets the looky-loos. It's like the people that slow down on the freeway to look at the accident. You're just like, well, why do I want you looking at my stuff? You know, like you're just, oh yeah, okay, there you go. I'll see you later. Bye.
It's knee-jerk as opposed to long-term interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say are some great ways of advertising? Like, what sort of things could we do to help advertise our controversial material?
Yeah, so definitely network is like one of the things that I would say is really, really important. And like, you know, I would say the only difference between probably me and you right now is that I know more people than you, probably would be the only difference. And like, make sure that you are engaged with your audience. Like we were just sort of, right before this, there was a panel about Patreon and, you know, doing Kickstarters and stuff like that, which I've done, and I've had successful stuff on that. But they're very much right about, like, engage with your audience and, like, you know, ask what they kind of want to, you know, like, they love that sort of stuff. And then it's like, you have to, like, be sort of really on top. Like, I'm not the best person for the marketing side of it. My friend James, who was in the last panel, does a really great job, but it's like, you have to sort of treat it like a job, you know, like you have to sort of like really put a little bit of effort into it and sort of figure out like where your audience, the eyes of your audience are, and then, you know, make sure that you're doing what you can do to get it in front of those people. And like, you should probably sort of be able to find, you know, either through, you know, different social media avenues. Twitter and Facebook are really good for this. There's a lot of good like marketing resources as well through Twitter and Facebook that can help you a lot better than I can, because I'm not like the best. But like I always say, try to be unique and like be a little bit different than everybody else, because like the thing that I can tell you doesn't help marketing is putting like a book cover or a movie poster or something that looks exactly like all the boring ones that are already out there. Like, man, like we were looking at like the stack of books, like the free books, or, you know, or like when we were going through the vendors tables, and we were picking out the ones where we were just like, oh yeah, I would, you know, and bought a couple of the ones where it's just like, I just like, you know, the marketing on this, and it might not necessarily be like, it might be the other one was better for me, you know, and suited in terms of like, but it had that same bland, boring cover that everybody has, and I'm just like, you're not really doing anything to like catch my attention. Like I always say, catch somebody's attention immediately if you can, and that's like, yeah.
Well, what strikes you? What kind of an idea? What did you see in the books that you bought that just kind of came out at you?
Usually it's like original art, right? And I don't think that it's the most expensive thing that you can do, but you can like find some artists out there that will do very reasonable work for you, or might even collaborate with you, you know, and you could go like, you know, percentage in, you know, say like, hey, if you do a really nice like cover painting and some illustrations for my book or something, you know, we could work out a deal where you get, you know, X amount of, you know, percentages or whatever. I pay you like a flat fee up front. But like, think of the like the Marvel movies are so guilty of this. Think of every Marvel poster you've ever seen.
Not only
it's
that,
exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
Every single one, right?
Yeah.
Black Panther, the Avengers, you know, all the Captain America movies, they're all the same. It's whoever the main character is. All of the ancillary characters just sort of like spread out around that character, and then maybe some, you know, flashes and bells and whistles or something like that. But it's so fucking boring.
Yeah, but they do it because it works.
Well, yeah, they don't have to put any effort into it. That's why they do it, because they're just like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, like you're going to come see, you know, like the Eternals or whatever, because like we just crank everything out. You're just going to come take a look at it, you know. And so like Marvel can get away with that shit, you know. But like think of what would be a good example of this? Like Disney does a nice, you know, like think of like the marketing, especially for like the Pixar stuff, where it's like WALL-E, right? And it's just a picture of WALL-E, right? That's all it is, you know. And I think that stands out and is stark, and they sort of understand that those are like there's an artistic element to that they don't want to take away, even though it's $1 billion, you know, like property that they're dealing with.
Right.
So don't be the same as everybody else is what stands out to me.
There was also something that I think it was just really Disney that really stood out is Marvel, the live action for Aladdin, and I think Star Wars, where they used the same color on every single poster and the same pattern. And I know that it's supposed to like pop out, but it doesn't.
Oh,
yeah,
this has got a built-in audience with the Marvel and DC extended universe. Anyway, you could put a can of shit on there, and if you said it was related to something that you see for it, well, I'm intrigued now. Would you go see a movie that was like a completely black poster with the name of the movie and then come see it?
I mean, it depends. Didn't they do that with Pitch Black or something?
Well, they probably did, but I wonder, if you knew nothing else, would you be motivated to see it just out of curiosity? Or would you feel like, I'm not falling for this. I'm not going to waste $15 and be...
I mean, I have to see it to like kind of decide, but maybe
Well, I'm just saying, and just based on that, a black poster with the name of a movie that maybe you've heard about or has something that would, I mean, obviously, if it doesn't relate to anything you already know, it's like, I don't care about that. And it just says, come see it. Remember the Woody Allen line? I can't remember what film it is. He said, we're going to let people in for free and charge them to get out. Once they're in there, once we got, you know, we can argue about the movies. You know, once they've got your money, I want my money back. I didn't like this movie. That doesn't work. And what's about everything else you can take back, but you can't take back your movie experience. So, well, it'll work with something will work with somebody, you know.
It's just like the authors who like people buy their books to then burn them. Thanks for buying my book,
cool.
buddy. Good job.
Good for me.
Well, I was going to say that's it. Is you have to know your audience and you have to know what you're targeting to. I mean, you know, you have to. And I don't. I pay somebody to do my cover art, and she spends her time on Amazon. What are the top 100 selling books in? Okay, I'm going to do a young adult urban fantasy. What are those top selling books? What do they look like? And my series has a theme going through it. So they look good on the shelf. There's no different size if you have all the books, but you can tell what it is by looking at the cover, and you have to know that. And if you don't know that, learn it or pay somebody else to do it, because otherwise you're going to wind up, you know.
Well, I always wonder what kind of subliminal agenda Disney had by putting their first VHSs and then their DVD box sets and things were actually physically larger than other companies. Like, you've already got pre-built shelves. This doesn't work. I'm so pissed.
Yeah.
I get just to stand out because we're bigger, you know. We're bigger, so we must be better.
Size matters.
Don't put us right next to the
size matters. That was a tagline for
probably more than one movie.
It might have been Alien or something. I don't remember having a horror film. I just don't know.
Godzilla, I think, had something.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was Godzilla.
But yeah, I mean, like, I didn't know this was going to like turn into an advertising panel, but that's totally
Well,
fine.
isn't that
More
what
of
it
a-
is?
I guess it is sort of implied with but yeah, like I can't do the artistic side of it at all, right? Like I do lots of video projects. I do lots of like I know how to move a camera, right? But like if it's like putting together, like I have 2 podcasts. I had somebody else put together like all the logos and stuff for me because mine would have looked like a 4-year-old did it. You know, I wish mine would have looked that professional. Like it wouldn't have even looked. It'd just be like, what is this? This
But
is
it'll
not.
appeal to 4-year-olds with money. So.
Yeah, I don't know any 4-year-olds with money, so like
They're out there.
yeah, they are. I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like definitely explore those different avenues. Like you said, either pay somebody to do it or learn it, you know, because there is certain aspects that I have learned, you know, like doing sort of the HTML side of it, you know, for like just all the posting and, you know, keeping my stuff updated. I mean, there's certainly been pieces that I've learned through that just because like I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do. But also remember that there are people out there that will do that, and probably pretty reasonably, you know, especially if they're sort of doing it on a freelance level too. Because, you know, I don't hate exposure, but like there is a certain piece to exposure because like for that sort of stuff, you know, like if somebody could put that stuff in their portfolio, you know, like a web designer or an artist or whatever, and say, hey, look at these logos I put together. Hey, you know, this different stuff that I put together for different people that like don't do any of that side of it. Like there is, you can probably get a little bit of a deal, especially if you have like a fan base, because like then you're getting your stuff, their stuff in front of eyes, you know, which can be, I've certainly seen the benefit of that for like ancillary purposes for artists like that I've used before that, you know, just continue to like get the word of mouth out there, and then finally the right person saw it, and then, you know, like I got a buddy who like I've got like original works on my wall, you know, that like 2 years ago he was barely making it, and now like Universal Studios is like, can you paint us some stuff we're gonna use like in our Halloween, you know, decorations for like all of the stuff that we bring in, you know, like the Haunted Hollywood or whatever it's called, Universal Horror, whatever it's called, because they saw that he was doing all these amazing, you know, like old school Universal monsters, you know, and these beautiful like acrylic paintings, and you know, suddenly, you know, now like I can't afford shit anymore, which is sad for me, but hey, good for him, you know, like I'm and he still kind of takes care of me if I want something done. But that's another thing is like you make those connections and you don't know like what's going to happen to that person, you know, so like you can accidentally get exposure through those avenues too, you know, we've had a lot of people that, you know, they would say like, why are you talking to so-and-so small indie movie, you know, maker, you know, writer or whatever, right? And it's just like, well, okay, sure, I get what you're saying, right? Nobody knows what this movie is, right? We did this movie that we really, really loved that was called Super Dark Times. And I was friendly with the writer, and so we reached out to him. And then, like, they just had another movie called The Night House, which has gotten, like, rave reviews, and you know, had Rebecca Hall in it, who's been nominated for an Academy Award. And now they're doing something called Hellraiser, and apparently it's, you know, causing some issues online. People are a little unhappy about some casting choices, which makes me infinitely happy. I'm just like, oh my God, that means you absolutely picked the right pinhead. She's great. I think she's great. And like they've been telling me about the dailies, you know, and so like that's why you make those connections, because like that guy who was making that movie that, you know, maybe cost $20,000 or whatever the first one was, it was nothing. They spent nothing on that movie. Suddenly they move into, you know, they see that these people have, you know, projection forward, and like, you know, the same thing happened to Adam Weingart. He was making like The Guest, you know, and like these little Frozen, you know, like these little small horror movies, and they're like, would you like to make Godzilla versus Kong? Yes, I would. You know, here's a check for $250 million. Do whatever you want, you know. And so, like, that's why I've had conversations, just hanging out with that dude, we were geeking out about, like, weird-ass Italian horror movies that we liked while everybody's trying to talk about the movie that he made. So, like, make those network, because you just never know. And, like, you'll meet that person that's on the same trajectory as you, and maybe they have that piece that you need. Because, like, you can take little pieces from everybody and just incorporate it into what you do. And I think that ultimately is what's going to keep pushing you forward in, like, a good direction.
If you make a movie cheaply enough and you have any kind of decent advertising, first-year advertising student ought to be able to put together a campaign. It's hard to lose money. People don't realize this, but I see so much money wasted in films because of infighting and politics and all that. It's like, put the money in your goddamn production. Either commit to this thing or get the hell out. For those of you that are interested in the business side of filmmaking, I assume it's probably applicable to novels and other forms of entertainment. It's a book by Roger Corman called How I Made 100 Movies in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime.
It's a great book.
And it's pretty true. So, it's
Rebel Without a Crew.
I mean, now you may
Robert Rodriguez. There's a TV series for that too.
You may engage in some shady advertising that might be morally questionable, like when Corman was with AIP, American International Pictures, he always said we designed the poster first, then we went ahead and wrote the script.
They would figure out what the title was, and they would design a poster, and they would hire.
The posters were great.
The posters were amazing.
Some of them, outside of the stuff from the golden age of Hollywood, they're like the most collectible things in the world. I love Beast with a Million Eyes. It's got this like caterpillar-like thing studded with eyes, and there's only one thing in there that vaguely looks like the face of that thing, but that's not in there at all. But you paid your money. What are you going to do?
Pull up the poster for Death Race 2000, right? It's amazing, right? It's a shitty, racing movie. It's Sylvester Stallone's in it, before he was really...
or David Carradine.
David Carradine's in it, yeah. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
But, like, you can learn a lot from those, what you mentioned William Castle earlier, right? Work some gimmicks into that stuff that you're doing. Gimmicks are great. They really are. And, like... People go, it's a gimmick. Yeah, but so what? Like, you looked at it, like he would do the Tingler, right? William Castler did and so what they would do is they would come in to the movie theater that they were showing their movie at, and they would wire like 2 seats in the movie theater to like, it's probably more than 2 because like, you have to make sure that somebody's getting zapped. But they would go in, they'd do some random seats, and like at a certain point in the movie, when the guy gets electrocuted, they would send a jolt through those seats, and like people would jump up, and it's just like, what?
Didn't Hitchcock do something like that?
Oh, Hitchcock was notorious for it. He loved it. I mean, he was always in his own movies, which I love that about him.
So was William Castle. He did a lot of cameos.
Oh yeah,
they were like 2 peas of the same pie.
They really were. Actually, they were like money and no money version of the same guy, basically.
They both bid on Diabolique at one point.
Oh yeah,
the French film. Hitchcock lost out. William Castle said, "Okay, it's too much money. I can't afford the stars." But Henri Clouzot did that film. Diabolique is the most Hitchcockian non-Hitchcock film you'll ever find. I recommend it highly, and it's been remade
several times.
Yeah, but great film.
But yeah, like Hitchcock would do the thing. Like so, there was a movie theater in my old hometown called The Castle. It was like one of those 2,000 seat, one screen, back when like you went downtown to go see a movie and nobody cared that there was no parking anywhere and all these things. And so there's Alfred Hitchcock in my hometown with a stand full of, like crows, promoting the birds in my hometown, or like a picture of Cary Grant, standing outside. Like, why was he in my shitty hometown, Like, there's no reason for Cary Grant to ever come to this town, But they did because advertising was different then, It's just like I used to do press junkets. They still do press junkets sometimes. It's where you just go to like, a hotel or some place and they set up, the writer, the director, the actors, in different rooms. You go, you walk around, you talk to everybody about, everybody goes, oh yeah, so-and-so was so great to work with. I can't wait to do it again. They're boring as hell, right? I would go because like a lot of places they would like buy you drinks too. So like I get drunk on DreamWorks dime, and go yell at like Bryan Adams. That's a true story.
Or you've seen a promotional film for Psycho with Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Rather than just clips from the movie, he kind of takes you around all the sets. Go, this is where this happened. This is where this happened. Oh my, are you in for a treat? That kind of thing. And it was like, it went on for like most trailers, like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
This went on for like 7 or 8 minutes. But you know, it's Hitchcock. You're going to watch.
Yeah.
And he didn't really give anything away.
Nope.
He just showed you the sets and
Yep.
kind of intimated, well, you know, this is key to the film's plot.
Would that
So
have worked?
I was engrossed. I can't speak for anybody else. I thought it was a great form of advertising.
Would that have worked if it wasn't Hitchcock?
I don't know. That's a good question.
William Castle did the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So-
if you're well known enough, I mean, not
Yeah,
necessarily,
that's the thing,
but if it's
right?
Joe Blow and this is only his second
Right.
feature, probably not.
It would have to have that voice and that tension that Hitchcock gets.
Well, yeah, well, you know, he told great stories.
Yeah, and
You know,
Hollywood's always been about.
I can't remember what it was. John, it was the Tonight Show, but he told the story about the MacGuffin. You all know what the MacGuffin is. It's,
Right.
it's kind of a red herring and plots. And he told the story about, you know, somebody asked that was on a train because so many of Hitchcock's films took place on trains.
Right.
And the guy says, "What's that over there? You know, overhead there?" And he said, "Oh, that's a MacGuffin." He goes, "Well, what's a MacGuffin?" He goes, "Well, it's a device for shooting lions in the Scottish Highlands." He goes, "But there are no lions in the Scottish Highlands." You go, "Oh, well, then that's no MacGuffin." And when Hitchcock tells it, it's like the greatest campfire story in the world. Even though it's like a one-off one-liner, you know.
But yeah, he loved MacGuffins, like the microfiche and North by Northwest.
Yeah, there's
was a
always
great
something
one.
going on.
I mean, Pulp Fiction has a great MacGuffin where Jules opens the case and he looks at whatever it is and he knows I can't lose this case now, right? And they never show you what it is, and that's one of the great. I mean, I love that, you know. And it can be whatever you want. That's the great part. Yeah.
The fish named Wanda, or you don't know what it was said or whatever, or what Rosemary was. I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched it. But, yeah.
But like, yeah, I mean, there's some amazing sort of stuff that you can work in there. And so don't be afraid of like gimmicks. Don't be afraid of like trying things. And be ready to fail, right? Like this is the thing I keep telling you know. Like, you know, they were just like, how did you start programming movies? And it's just like, I kept asking until somebody said yes, you know, like just find the person that will say yes. I promise you, there are people out there that will say yes to you for what you want to do. I promise they're out there. You just got to keep asking.
Yeah, it's like in Hollywood. Take any job. You've just met a person, you know, that gave you this job. Then you find out who they know, and you keep at it. You keep getting your name out there. I don't care how menial it is. Just do it, and you're in the biz. When James Cagney was working at sort of the tail end of silent films, he was in a cowboy picture. And the director said, "Can you ride a horse?" "Oh, sure." He'd never been on a horse in his life. He went out that night and did his best just to stay on the horse and not get freaked out by it. And it worked. Nobody knew, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yep. I mean, that stuff happens.
Don't be afraid to go, well, they're going to find out what a fraud is. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah, worry about it when they find out what
There's a lot of
you're a
stupid
fraud.
people out there. You might be smarter than most of them. You don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, fake it till you make it is, it's a true thing, right? Like, you know, I would say I was a little ahead of the curve because I'd done a lot of, like, events by the time we started doing live events, but, like my co-host was like terrified the first time we did a live event, and she's like, "You seem so calm," and I'm like, "Well, we're just going out there to talk about like a movie that we love, that everybody here that's coming to see this movie also loves this movie, so like they're not like going to come after us or anything, and if they do, who cares? Like that'll be even better. I'll antagonize I'll take on the whole crowd. I don't care." And it turned out to be fine, you know, and it was just like, and now, you know, like that's continue. Like, I never planned on doing live events. I never really planned on doing this. You know, these things just sort of like, I know people, and it's just like, oh, that seems like it would be fun. Can I do that? Yeah, okay, cool. And now, as you keep doing that, you start building this network of people. And now, like, when I have crazy ideas, like, I keep bouncing around in my head, like, I could really pull off a film festival now, right? Top to bottom, I know I could do it. And, like, you know, before, you know, I had the same idea. Oh, I could do a film festival. Now, like, I know the people. I could do a film festival if I wanted to, right? And, like, I know the people that I can reach out to potentially for sponsors and, like the people that sort of do it. You pay attention to the stuff that you like that is out there. Pay attention to the people that are supporting that and reach out to those people. Like that is going to be, just a wealth of, because like those are already the people that are doing what you want to do. And so like I got invited to this because like I knew somebody that was already doing this, I am a writer, but like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm, the great genius of writing or anything like that. I've certainly written a lot over the last 30 years or whatever, 40, whatever it is now. But I don't think I've got it all like figured out or anything, but I'm just willing to keep trying things that will work, and eventually you'll just get to where you want to be. And so like, I know some real movers and shakers in Hollywood. My, degrees of separation from like people that you just be like, what? It's like 1 or 0, for a lot of, and it's just like, how the fuck do I know Quentin Tarantino? Like, how is that a fucking thing, right? Like, that's stupid. But like, it's a thing that I really do, and like, I never expected any of that to happen. And that was totally an accident because somebody that I know knew Quentin Tarantino. And so like, I got to meet Quentin Tarantino. It's just like, that's fucking awesome, but like, just put it out there. Put it out there. Don't be afraid.
So Monday Night Football.
There's
Eli and Peyton Manning have a parallel show that they announce live, and they bring guests on. It bit them real good the other night because they have Marcel, I don't remember. Anyway, they're talking about this play, and the play falls apart, and Marcel goes, "What the fuck was that?"
But I mean, that's like, so there's going to be people that are only casually interested in football, right? But they like Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, right? So they'll tune in to Monday Night Football because like they do the same thing with Nickelodeon now, right? Like the NFL is the smartest marketing. I mean, they are terrible, awful people, fuck them forever. I love football, but fuck them forever, right? And, but like as far as marketing goes, they are geniuses. They are the best I've ever seen.
Oh, and I think Peyton Manning sold himself after his football career, after his appearance on Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah, I mean
he was self-deprecating to the max, and he was funny, engaging. Although I don't know if that GE College Bowl thing worked out too well.
The two of them together are tremendously funny.
Yeah.
And Eli was picking on Peyton for his receding hairline. And their dad had said, Eli, you might want to ease up on the forehead. He says, "Dad, that's not a forehead. It's closer to a 5."
Well, what does that make Joe Buck then? He's got room for your ad here. If he and Helen Hunt ever married, had children, they'd look like Brainiac. My God.
But yeah, I mean, like they market to kids now through Nickelodeon. Like they have a Nickelodeon show, and so like they're really just and like the Nickelodeon show was like a total afterthought, right? Like it's one of those like media mergers where they're like, oh yeah, well we have access to all these other networks now, and like there's why not just get our content in front of other people? So like let's do a fun show where like the players get slimed and stuff, like let's just totally lean into the Nickelodeon aspect of it, and it totally worked. It was like they did a whole game of the playoffs last year. And I was like, I couldn't believe how much fun I was having. I was like, this is this is ridiculous, but like, I love it, and I could see like how that would like appeal to, like maybe kids that only are marginally, invested in like the football game, but they like all the ancillary stuff.
No, I got slime. I can't imagine that anybody could fail miserably when they've got slime involved. Yeah. Kids, you got to be a pretty big asshole.
Yes, that should be on every interview. Get some slime.
Get some slime. Make slime your co-host.
Slime is an amazing cleaning tool. No, seriously, if you have your cup holders in your car and they get all gross and dusty, you just take your little slime thing and boop, boop, boop.
Yeah,
clean. You're welcome.
When I was a kid, it was Play-Doh, and it did the same thing. Silly Putty, another one.
I used to work for Texas Instruments, and I always had the idea that everything's with superheroes now, and Texas Instruments says we're leader in power. it just made sense that they should be connected to them, Power and then Texas Instruments. They even had the video and film thing. They never did it because I think they were more interested in their supporter or shareholders. But I just thought, if you're saying you're the leader, you better be up there.
Oh, you worked with the group that bamboozled my generation for those T86 stupid graphing calculators.
Well,
The Judy Jetson tool of the future.
The key word there was worked.
Yes.
I know.
I was an analog.
I want their names. I want their numbers. I want my $120 back.
Did you buy it?
They made me in middle school.
I had
It
one
was
of
like
those ridiculous
everybody.
calculators too. They were like $80 or $90 when I bought it. In 19.
Used it for 1 year, and I didn't even graph with it because we never covered that part of the damn math.
And somewhere Texas Instruments is paying out the American Teacher Association.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with superheroes. I remember AT&T had a print advertising, and there was a picture of a phone booth, and Superman was going into it. It's like, wow, who's gonna be against that? Apple pie, motherhood, and the American way. I think they dispense with that now because that's too jingoistic.
Yes.
The phrase the American
Plus,
way. What is the American way?
Like who would know what a
Truth,
phone
justice,
booth is
and the
anymore?
American way,
Like
the Holy Trinity.
like the whole
Good stuff.
Superman changing in a phone booth. Who would even know what a phone booth is anymore?
Yeah.
Like if you ask a kid, "What's a
Or
phone
remember
booth?"
when-
What?
Superman came out with Christopher Reeve, and it was a half phone booth, and he goes, "I can't change into this. There's nothing there." And he just keeps running. That was great. I thought that was wonderful.
And then you spoof it. That's the thing. You spoof it.
Well, as long as we have Doctor Who, we'll always know what a phone booth is.
That's right.
Or at least a police box.
So my son-in-law is an executive with Geico. 2 years ago, their advertising budget was $1 billion.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
But they're great.
It works.
And it pays off. I mean, who thought of a Geico? Well, it's because it's similar to Gecko, is similar to Geico. Yeah, and he's got to have a Cockney accent. How do you put those two together?
I know.
Did they try a bunch of different accents and said that seems to work? We like this guy.
Well, they had a contest to see which of their string of ads over the years were the most popular. The camel. Oh, Mike, what day is it today?
Oh, I thought
day.
First, I thought you were going to say Joe Camel from Camel Cigarettes. No, that's another. Can't market that to kids.
No. There's your effective marketing right there.
I don't know if this is the one you were thinking of, but did you mean Ernest at the beginning, the short word sentence? Because he did a 6-word sentence, Ernest Hemingway did, which was...
Well, this was a science fiction writer. It was one word. And I think the answer was Earth, and I don't know if the title was a question. It's like, what's the worst planet in the universe? But it was something like that. It's going to drive me crazy until I figure this out. It's not going to happen today, unfortunately.
6th story was baby shoes. I was just trying to...
Right, but Hemingway was known for his terseness.
Right.
An economy of words. Let's be charitable here.
Yeah. Well, what else, guys? We got 4 minutes left.
Yeah, did we get off the beaten path here? It was fun anyway. Whether we strayed off topic. That's the way things. I gotta recommend since we talked about just to get this in. We talked about Roger Corman's book, How I Made 100 Movies in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime. You all got to find a copy or PDF or whatever's available of William Castle's Step Right Up, I'm going to Scare the Pants Off America. It's a great read. No big words, It's, he talked about his time as a theater assistant to Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi was touring with Dracula on stage. That's kind of where he got his start.
Yeah, if you're interested in some of those older movies and like the advertising and marketing of it, there's a really good boutique label called Something Weird. The guy who started it passed away, and sadly, like it hasn't really sort of continued on the way that it did. But a lot of the old, and they did a lot of stuff that was like drive-in circuit, stuff that was really tough. Like unless you were like in a regional market where that played, you just didn't see it. And so you can learn a lot from...
I love their DVD of just their trailers.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like you can't get bored because once you just keep moving and moving, and there's just such outrageous stuff. It's like, I do want to see these films. Yeah. As bad as they might be, it's like, I want to know more. What's what is he doing to her? How did this come about?
Yeah.
And you just keep, nope, we're going on to the next page. Either jump on the train or get left behind.
That's good marketing.
Yeah, I love
42nd Street Forever. There's like a whole series of like grindhouse trailers, that are horror, sci-fi, exploitation, kung fu, all the fun stuff.
Have you seen Joe Dante's Trailers from Hell?
Oh yeah, that's another
that's
really
another.
great one.
It's a website.
Yeah,
Joe Dante, of course, Gremlins
too.
and everything else. Yeah, he's got the.
Trailers
He's a real
Trailers from Hell.
Just
it's a
type
long
that in.
series too. So
that's a wonderful.
And Joe Dante knows everything about Hollywood. That guy is a wealth of knowledge.
Back when the trailers would grab you, but not show you everything.
Yep.
I spent a wonderful afternoon on the Warner Brothers lot. Joe Dante brought in his 16mm print of them.
Oh,
we sat in the theater watching that, on a big screen.
Oh, man,
I always thought it was
great.
the word "them" is in color.
Yeah.
But nothing. It's a black and white film.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's
kind of like the end of How to Make a Monster, where it's a black and white film,
Mm-hmm.
and for the last 5 minutes, it goes into color when the room where all these sculptures are goes up into flames.
Yeah,
it's another gimmick. But
War of the Colossal Beast did the same thing.
Yeah.
It was a sequel to the Amazing Colossal Man, which nobody was really asking for, and they like threw together like a 58-minute. It's barely a movie. And the whole gimmick was see the shocking color finale, and it does, like in the very...
Literally, because
he gets shocked at the very end. I mean, like, the last 5 seconds, like, it's so the very end.
Giantism was really big in the late 50s. Everything had to be huge,
Oh, yeah, well, it's all atomic. It's all atomic, and...
Food of the gods.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You ever see The Astounding She Creature, where the woman, the alien, in this silver lame suit, she walks backwards through the whole movie, not because of some kind of weird alien affectation, because the zipper broke and they didn't want her ass to be exposed. But it's a 60-minute film, and you wonder, why did she come into a room backwards, or she goes out of her room backwards and stuff.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Why didn't they just have her walk backwards and then run the film?
I don't know,
forwards? That's like one of the oldest tricks in the book.
It's like you couldn't stop to fix the zipper. You were on that much of a time constraint.
They probably didn't have any money.
Obviously, there was no
money for a zipper.
Budget,
no, I don't have
for
50
second
cents for a zipper. No way. No way.
That's the gas.
Yeah, it's like that's twice the budget of this movie. Are you mad? We can't stop to fix a zipper.
Sorry. Velcro. They didn't have Velcro back then.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody's come to like throw us out of the room yet. Like I figured.
No one's going to come to throw us out of the room.
Is there a panel after this?
Yeah, there's 1 at 2. I'm back here in 3 for binge-worthy.
I mean, like right now, there's no panel.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, is there no panel right this? Okay.
I was just nobody's come in, so obviously not. So.
I thought there was, but I guess there's not. Maybe
There should have been.
I thought there was. That's not impossible. It could have.
Or there are another panel from random movers.
Yeah,
I think that offshoots really make the panel, to tell you the truth.
Well,
I think that
as long as people feel like they have not wasted their hour, that's the main.
Yeah,
I just want people to engage. People engage. That's all I really care about. So.
Yeah, we always stray off topic, but that's par for the course.
Exactly.
I've never been on a panel where that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
I think that would be kind of like, because what if the people don't really want to hear that part, they want to hear this part, so you can go back out.
Okay.
Maybe there is.
Yeah, I see. I told you.
There is something. It's sunny, all the rules have gone out the window, I guess.
Oh my god, I love yours. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.
But I have no idea about the topic, so.
You're in here just because you need to kill some time, or?
No, I mean, like, I'm learning to learn.
Oh, well, you're hoping to learn something.
Yeah.
Well, geez,
Pressure.
no pressure there. You know?
Prepare.
I'll see if I can find one interesting factoid in the depth of my subconscious. Yeah, I'm not even sure what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
How badly the church has reacted to everything we've ever done.
Basically.
More advertising, more effective. No.
And good panel. That's it, you know? What was the greatest, the shortest and the greatest short story ever written? It was one word. It's very famous, and I can't even remember now. It was a one word, and it's like, I hate this. I hate getting old.
I'm Googling for you.
Yeah, I think the response, or the content of the story was Earth. And the title was probably 10 times as long as the body of the story.
Yeah.